spirits can relate to anything around us. Your old toys, pieces of furniture, old clothes, or your precious jewelry. Here's a collection of the most haunted items in the world, and we promise that what you're reading now will make you think 1,000 times before bringing something into your house of antiques and old stuff. The Haunted Bolzano Vase. The vase was made for his bride. This beautiful vase was made of pure silver in the 15th century. It is considered an Italian folklore that continues to provoke terror and inspires ghost and paranormal enthusiasts. Her history is not entirely clear, but it is likely made as a wedding gift for a young bride in Naples, and on her wedding night the bride was found dying and clinging to this vase. And before she died she vowed that she would return to avenge those who caused her death. After her death, the vase was moved by her relatives, all of whom died in mysterious circumstances, until they decided to put a solution to this curse by hiding this vase forever. According to legend, there was a piece of paper inside the vase. On the paper with a letter written, "Beware. This vase brings death." The warning was ignored, and the vase was quickly sold at auction for 4 million lira. And the death sentence continued. He was the first local pharmaceutical buyer to own the vase until he mysteriously died just 3 months later. His family sold it to a prominent surgeon who did not believe in curses, but died just 2 months later at the age of 37. After a while the vase was sold back to an archaeologist who bought it to join his own collection, where he saw in the vase a living symbol of the greatest taste and taste. But he also died 3 months later from an unknown infection. His family tried to sell the vase again, but it was almost impossible. The recovery of the 5 million liras paid by the archaeologist has become almost impossible. But they finally managed to sell it with difficulty. This time it took only a month before the curse appeared again on the new Bolzano vase angel. By this time, the entire city had believed the curse, including the remaining families, and the owner of the last vase made the decision to throw it out the window. But the vase cursed her last curse, as she almost fell over a policeman's head and took his life. The vase owner was offered a hefty fine for undisciplined behavior. The owner of the haunted vase agreed to take the fine receipt but refused to take the vase again even if they put him in prison instead. The police tried to give the vase to many museums, but they all refused to take it because of the curse. Several newspapers reported that the local police buried the vase again in an unknown place, and some other sources claimed that it was placed in a lead coffin and buried in an old cemetery so that no one could find it. Let's hope no one really finds it. The Damn Closet. During the mid-19th century in South Carolina, Jacob Coley killed a slave named Hosea in order to build a closet that, in his view, was not good enough, beating the poor slave to death. Hosea's companions avenged his unjust master by asking a magician to curse the treasury, and that black curse claimed the lives of 17 family and relatives of Jacob Coley. including his eldest son. This curse didn't stop until a witch lifted it up, and the closet is now on display at a museum in Kentucky. Valentino ring. Rudolph Valentino. He was one of the most famous movie stars of his time. The shopkeeper didn't want to sell the ring, saying, "He's cursed, it's the ring of destiny." But that didn't affect the famous Hollywood actor Rudolph Valentino, who fell in love with the ring at a convenience store in San Francisco. The silver ring was the restaurant with a beautiful semi-cream stone that he could not resist. He should have had it, so he bought it. But after thinking maybe he should have listened to the seller, Valentino, a talented young Italian born in 1895, was at the height of his glory in 1920 in America and caused a sensation in the age of silent films. He was a big star for producers and filmmakers, and the public flocked to buy tickets for his films. But after he bought the ring, something changed, and the situation turned upside down. The cursed ring destroyed Valentino's life, and by the time he made the film Ibn al-Sheikh in 1926 he had an infection as a result of surgery where he was diagnosed with appendicitis and stomach ulcers, and underwent surgery immediately. The young star died at the age of 31 as a result, and nearly 100,000 of his loved ones and fans attended his funeral to say goodbye. When she finally began to recover, her career was destroyed, so she decided to get rid of the ring by giving it to the young singer Ross Colombo, who was known as Valentino. However, he soon died in a shooting incident shortly after owning the ring. The ring was then taken by Ross' best friend Joe Casey, who was hit by a pickup truck and also died at an early age. The ring was transferred to his girlfriend Paula Negri. Months after the incident, a thief stole the ring from Joe's brother's house. But even the thief didn't survive the curse, and the cops shot him, and they quickly shot him dead with the ring in his pocket. When the great director Edward Small took the ring, he wanted to make a film about the life story of Valentino. He chose a young actor named Jack Dunn to take the role and gave him the ring to wear. But Jack died of a blood disease just 2 weeks after he wore the ring. Who's next? The ring is now in the basement of a bank. Some say he survived numerous attempts at burglary, arson. Others say he was robbed again. Double-decker bed. 30 years ago, a family in Wisconsin experienced one of the scariest situations in history. For 9 months, this family has suffered in their home because of a bunk bed. In a quiet, small town in Wisconsin, where people are nice and quiet, specifically on a small street called Larrabee Street, one of the families brought home a 2-story used bed for her children, thinking it would bring happiness to them, but it was only a source of misery. May 1987 was the date of the beginning of 9 months of terror for the Talman family. The moment Alan and Debbie Talman brought the bed, horrible things started happening to the kids first and then spread to the whole family. children who were rarely ill, suddenly became ill for no apparent reason. On the night the family moved the bed into the room, their son Danny was sleeping in the next room, and after wishing his parents a good night, he woke up on the radio running on his own and switched between channels, and swore he saw the radio keys turn around as if someone was moving them. But his parents didn't believe him. A few weeks later, Ellen was painting the walls downstairs and went up for lunch, leaving the paintbrush on the table, and when he came back he found the brush lying in the paint bucket. As the youngest daughter slept in bed, she claimed to have woken up to find a fearsome old woman with red eyes staring at her, and suddenly saw the fire burning in the room. About a month later, Danny claimed he saw the same thing. The family brought a priest home, and he also felt something suspicious in the house. The suffering of the Talman family continued. The doors opened and closed on its own, and the voice of someone calling them their names out of nowhere, and seeing terrifying nightmares in their sleep. 3 weeks later, at around 2 a.m. on January 7, 1988, Alan came home from his night work and heard a scary howling sound coming from the garage. He went to check it out, but he heard a loud voice calling him, "Come here," and he went back behind him to see if there was someone, but there was no one. He returned to the garage to find it burning completely, rushing to the house to bring the fire extinguisher, but when he returned to the garages the fire was gone. The garage door was not damaged and there were no clear signs of a fire in the garages. A few days later, Ellen was working late and asked a relative to watch the girls. His cousin was incredibly skeptical of ghosts, until that night, the same terrified old woman appeared again, and a loud scream screamed. Debbie took her children and their relatives and left the house in a hurry, telling him they never came back. 2 weeks later, the bed was destroyed. After that, the Talmans had no experience with the paranormal again. In April 1988, another family moved into Talman's house and had no scary experiences at home. The Dam Basby's Chair. Basby's Chair, or the Damned Man's Chair, is an allegedly haunted oak chair, said to have been cursed by the murderer Thomas Basby before he was hanged in 1702 in North Yorkshire, United Kingdom. In the late 17th century, a currency counterfeiter named Daniel O'Eady moved to a small North Yorkshire town, Englander, and bought an old farm and turned it into a den suitable for forgery, where he built a large hidden underground room and installed a very powerful protection mechanism so that unexpected visitors could not catch him while he was working forgery. The farm was renamed Denoti Hall. He had his own chair at the bar, and he was always drunk, Basby fighting with Oti for sitting in his favorite chair. After a long fight, Basby walked 3 miles to Denoti Hall, where he planted a knife in Oti's heart and shot him dead. Oti's body was eventually found. Basby was charged with murder and tried and found guilty of murder. In 1702, Basby was hanged, and after he died, Basby's body was suspended at the Sundewton Junction near the lodge where he lived. Some say that before he went to the gallows, Basby promised anyone who dared to sit in his chair, and others say that Basby was drunk when he was caught sitting in his favorite chair, and cursed the chair at the time. After the execution, the hostel was renamed the Basby Chair Inn, where it was said that his ghost was inhabited and that if someone sat in his chair, he would die. The mail delivery man sat in the chair while he was in the basement, where the owner of the new inn kept him to avoid the rumors and problems he caused after learning about the curse. He died in a car accident that evening when he lost control of his car and crashed. The strangest of them was the chimney cleaner who sat in the chair to drink, and after leaving the hostel in the late hours of the night, they found him hanged in the same place as Basby's body. The chair is hanging in the museum so no one can sit on it. The last bar manager moved the chair to the museum and told them to show it hanging and never let anyone sit in it. Not at all. To this day, the chair is mounted on the wall of the Thirsk Museum, and no one is allowed to sit in it, no matter how much thrill it offers.